Doom 3 is a game that ages like fine wine. Seriously, I don't know what it is about this game, but no matter how many times I've replayed it, I've never gotten bored of it and always find something new to appreciate. This was the first true full 3D Doom game, and considering this thing came out in 2004, it's pretty wild how good it looks even now, and it's still fun to play. My first experience with Doom 3 was actually the Xbox port. You see, I didn't have a computer that could game at all back then, and definitely not one that could run Doom 3. I didn't have an Xbox at the time either, but later on, when the Xbox 360 came out, I got one of those, and that had some limited backwards compatibility, and thankfully Doom 3 was one of those games. And the fact that they were able to port the game to the Xbox was nothing short of incredible, because if I remember correctly, Doom 3 was demanding as hell on PC, and a lot of people's high-end PCs at the time were having a hard time running it. I guess it was a can it run Crysis situation before Crysis was even a thing. But somehow, they got it to work on Xbox. Although this version has a lot of different changes and several levels were altered, and one of them was completely omitted. Anyway, a few years after that, Doom 3 BFG Edition came out, which was somewhat more faithful to the original PC version, but it did make some questionable changes. When I got into PC gaming, I bought both the BFG Edition and the original version. I'm not exaggerating when I say Doom 3 is probably the Doom game I've played the most. But enough about that, let's answer the question, does Doom 3 hold up despite it being old enough to drink now? Let's find out. And disclaimer, before we go any further, I'm not playing the vanilla version of the game. I'm using the Doom 3 mod, which ports Doom 3 to the source engine. And I combine that with the Doom 3 Enhanced Edition mod, which does some minor gameplay tweaks, and both mods add some nice quality of life things that I'll bring up in a sec when I talk about visuals. That being said, it's still pretty close to the vanilla experience, but I will highlight the changes the mod brings when it's relevant. Also, this is part of a series I've been making reviewing every major Doom game, starting with Eternal and then working my way back to the original, though now I'm going to have to add Doom the Dark Ages onto this list. You don't need to watch the previous videos since those were on Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, but I'm mentioning them because it's my channel and shameless self-promotion, and you can go check out the full Doomed Retrospective playlist in the cards. Alright, let's go.
Serious problems.
Oh, really? Do I need to remind you of the groundbreaking work that we're doing here?
This game is still gorgeous even now. The high contrast with the light and shadows thanks to the stencil lighting system makes the game look striking, and I think it helps the graphics hold up because of that. The only blemishes I would say visually is that the character models, these characters got some chunky low poly fingers, and everyone has this awkward texture seam running down the middle of their bodies that can be a little distracting once you notice it. I'm not sure why all the character models have this. The BFG edition, which I'm not playing here, did fix that issue. But going back to the lighting is the star of the show here because this game is dark, and I'm not just talking about the tone either. You will often be in environments where you can't see a damn thing in front of you. And this is core to the gameplay because if you somehow don't know, Doom 3 leans more into horror than any other Doom game before or since. I remember a quote from somewhere to describe this game as walking into a haunted house with a loaded shotgun. And that's pretty accurate because enemies will pop out at you from the shadows, teleport in, ambush you by standing behind a wall that will randomly drop when you're nearby. And the game also has many scripted scare sequences.
The UAC is here to help you.
But you do have a shotgun. And even though you're a walking arsenal, the game still tries to freak you out and make you paranoid about entering new rooms. And I gotta say, it's not bad at doing that. Because the game throws so many ambushes at you, I doubt you'll be able to remember every single one in the level, and there will be one that you will forget and it might get a reaction out of you. One of the reasons why I'm using the source port of this game, which does require you to have a legitimate copy of the game to play in order for it to work, is because on top of it supporting 64-bit systems, it also supports higher resolutions right out of the box without you having to go into the config files, and it avoids the other problem by doing that, which is if you up the resolution too much, the HUD will get all stretched out and stuff. It doesn't seem to be a problem with the source port, which is a good thing if you have a widescreen monitor, because Doom 3 does not support that out of the box. Gotta cut them some slack. This is a 21-year-old game. And the fact that the vanilla version runs on modern hardware at all, without massive hiccups or even crashing, that's impressive. Considering how many times Doom 2016 and even Eternal crashed on me a few times while making reviews for that, the fact that this game I had no technical problems, that's wild. I guess this game was just built different. However, as far as I know, and maybe because the source port version I'm using is older, maybe this has been changed, but the game is capped to 60 FPS. So if you're on a higher refresh rate monitor, the only way you're going to be able to take advantage of the fact that you have a high refresh rate is to play the BFG edition. As far as I know, there might be a mod that uncaps the frame rate or a way to do it in the config files, but I've never seen it done. Moving on though, the game is at a much slower pace than previous Doom games, as there's not just hordes of enemies bearing down on you constantly. Especially at the start of the game, you'll likely have 2 to 3 enemies to deal with in an encounter, and sometimes more enemies will spawn in or activate after delay, or after the main encounter is already over. But going back to the darkness, while yes, it allows enemies to ambush you easier and it does contribute to the horror atmosphere that the game is clearly going for, it also adds to the slower pace. You see, you can't have your flashlight out and your gun at the same time. You have to switch between flashlight or gun. From what I found online, this was due to a technical limitation, and this is probably one of the most divisive elements in the game because a lot of people don't like this mechanic, and I think it's silly that you can't just tape a flashlight to a gun. I mean, most firearms now have rail systems where you could attach a flashlight onto it, so it is a little silly when you really think about it, and I can't imagine that in the far future we just don't have duct tape anymore. But the BFG edition completely changes the flashlight mechanic to have it be armor mounted, and it has a battery that recharges pretty quickly. I'm not a fan of this and some of the other changes the BFG edition made, like brightening up the environments, makes the flashlight feel less useful in general, and the whole recharge mechanic just feels pointless. Also, the flashlight added tension and quick decision making, which I think is perfect for horror. Do you trade your ability to defend yourself for better visibility in the dark, making yourself more vulnerable? Or do you do the opposite? You don't get any of that decision making in BFG edition. I also think having to switch between flashlight and gun makes enemies deadlier, because obviously there's a delay between when you can go from using the flashlight to using the gun. That brief second makes you feel a little helpless. Now the devs do throw you a bone here because a lot of enemies have either glowing eyes or attacks that illuminate the area a bit, allowing you to see what's going on. So if you don't have your flashlight out, you're not completely helpless. For example, when imps summon their fireball, it illuminates the area around them, which allows you to see them. The flashlight forces you to take things slowly, and I think it grounds you in the environment more and just makes the game more immersive as a whole. And that's one thing this game excels at, is immersion. Because you know how most games, when there's a terminal, you just press a button when you're in front of it, and it does whatever it's supposed to do and that's it? Doom 3 doesn't do that. You see, when you walk up to a terminal, your aiming reticle changes to a cursor like you're operating a mouse on a computer. And you put that cursor on what you want to trigger and click it like you would if you were actually using a computer. You don't just press E to unlock a door. And it might seem like a really simple thing, but it does a lot to ground you in the setting. And there's so many panels and terminals in the game that you can interact with, and you can use this to unlock secrets, and you'll need to do this to unlock security lockers that contain goodies like health, armor, and in some cases, new weapons. If I remember correctly, there was a note in the Xbox version's manual that said there was over 500,000 lines of code for all the screens in Doom 3. So that was a pretty big undertaking. To help you with unlocking security lockers is your trusty PDA. It's basically a tablet, but if it was as thick as a mid-2000s laptop. Your PDA can store data from other dead UAC personnel, including their security clearances, so you can access areas to progress and emails that can contain codes you need to open lockers. Some PDAs also contain audio logs of the deceased staff member, and some of these can add to the creep factor and explain more of the backstory of what's going on, and in general, they're just really well acted. The Enhanced Edition mod does tweak the audio for these, and it makes it so they sound like they're coming from a small speaker in the PDA, which makes things even more immersive, and I think is a nice touch. I wonder why they didn't do that in the first place. The PDA can also store a video disc you find too, but these are more rare and they aren't necessary to progress. They just add more lore to the game, which is nice. Like Doom 1 and Doom 2, there are secrets to uncover. Some will be in the lockers I mentioned earlier, and others are hidden in more creative ways. Sometimes picking up items that are out of the way will trigger enemy encounters, and the game really loves doing that, especially on higher difficulties. Despite the difference in direction, there's a lot of old Doom still in here. A lot of the classic monsters from Doom 1 and Doom 2 are present, and they behave similarly to how they did in the old games. Now, you do have to reload weapons here unlike classic Doom, but you don't have a weapon limit at all. However, unlike the classics, you can't sprint infinitely. You do have a stamina bar, but I'm gonna be honest, I forget sprinting is a thing 90% of the time, because your base walk speed is fine for the most part. There are a few instances where you get infinite stamina, that's when you're in hell, or if you find the ultra rare adrenaline pickup, which gives you infinite stamina for a certain amount of time. You can also jump, but like a lot of FPS games, the jump is kinda trash. You can crouch, which is very useful because some enemies have attacks that you can completely avoid if you duck at the right time. And it's useful for exploration and finding hidden goodies that you'll probably need. Just like in the classic games, the enemies, they're very predictable, and you can always trust that an imp will hurl fireballs at you or try to close in and smack you in the face, for example. One thing I don't like about this game is how damage is handled. While armor is a thing, it doesn't seem to block damage well. And when you get hit in this game, your screen will shake, and this is a problem, especially when it comes to melee enemies, because the screen shake will throw off your aim, meaning you won't have a shot. And what will end up happening is the enemy will hit you again while you're trying to adjust your aim, and it'll throw your aim off again. And there are a few enemies where this is a huge problem, but we will get there when we get there. Last thing to say about presentation is music. There's not much of it. Instead of high BPM electronic and metal music like you'd see in the Doomslayer games, or the Bobby Prince music of the classics, with the exception of the opening theme, Doom 3 has very little actual music. I will say, the opening theme and the theme that plays in the credits, it's really good. A lot of people have pointed this out, and I agree with them, that this song feels like it's inspired by the song Lateralist by Tool, because there are some moments in it that do sound very similar. Yeah, that's the only real music you get, because a lot of it is just ambient noise and droning stuff that's meant to be creepy and moody and atmospheric, and it does a good job with it. And just the atmosphere and ambience as a whole is top notch, and whoever was in charge of sound design, especially for the environments, they need a raise. Every enemy has a unique sound cue, so you always know what is coming to kill you, which is nice. And yeah, this is a game where you're gonna need to use your ears. You can't, this isn't a game I'd recommend having like a little podcast on in the background while you play, especially if you're playing on anything above like normal difficulty. Don't do it. The only thing sound-wise that I know gets a lot of criticism is how the weapons sound. I don't mind them, but a lot of people I've seen critique this game say they sound kind of weak. That's not the only thing in this game that gets a lot of criticism, or that I've seen people criticize it for. A certain weapon does too, but we aren't there yet. Let's go over the campaign. Sorry to interrupt the video for a second, but I need to talk to you about something. So, in addition to running a YouTube channel, I'm also an author with 3 books out at the time of making this, and it would really mean a lot if you guys check them out on Amazon. Currently, I have the Renegade series, which has 2 books in it, with a 3rd one in the works. It's a sci-fi action adventure story in the spirit of 90s cartoons and comics. The series follows a team of heroes, each with their own unique abilities, one of them being a sword-wielding, water-bending alien named Ronin. This group, called the Renegades, protect their world from all sorts of threats. The second book, Blackout, has a team following a lead on their arch nemesis, and they end up in their universe's version of Japan. The team find themselves in the crosshairs of a dangerous group of mercenaries and the shadowy group that hired them. As things escalate between them, the mercenaries, and the ones pulling their strings, the entire fate of the island hangs in the balance, as it is plunged into darkness and held hostage with the aid of a powerful weapon called Blackout. If you're looking for something less serious and more whimsical, consider checking out Tales of the Edgeworlds Volume 1. It's a collection of 4 zany, off-the-wall comedy stories set in a broken multiverse, and features characters such as a violent, short-tempered, foul-mouthed, gun-toting space penguin named Edgy, and his crew of oddballs getting into crazy hijinks, involving mutants, space mafias, and vampires, that are also from space. It also includes a story about a dorky, clumsy combat android named Mika 227 that tangles with a feared space pirate captain to save some miners. It also recently got an audiobook, which only amplifies the hilarity in these stories, and it really makes the characters jump off the page with the over-the-top voices that the narrator does. The link to my Amazon page for all 3 books will be in the description and in the pinned comment. Back to the video.
You don't know what I've seen. You can't possibly understand or comprehend.
The devil is real.
I know. I built his cage.
I'm getting abnormal readings here. This is bad.
Oh, God!
I can't hold these levels.
So, after getting briefed that the UAC is the largest corporate entity ever, and they have their hands in everything, and have some of the most advanced tech that's ever existed, we ride on a dropship to the UAC facility on Mars, specifically the area called Mars City. A very sinister-sounding fellow, who we later learn is Dr. Malcolm Betruger, tells us Dad to make sure Counselor Swan is sent directly to him.
We have them on radar, sir. They'll be landing in a few moments.
Excellent. See that Counselor Swan is sent directly to me.
Yes, sir. I can't believe it's come to this. I didn't want to come here.
He left you no choice.
True, but this is the last time. I'm tired of running damage control every time he makes a mess.
Right. You're the control. And if that fails, I'm the damage.
If that's what it takes.
I love Campbell's line about damage control. I gotta write that one down. I gotta use that. From the get-go, it's pretty obvious there's something sinister afoot here. You can talk to the personnel, and one of the first people you speak to outright says he gotta get out of here. Massive spoilers, but he should've got out of here a while ago. You gotta go through a bioscan, and the security guy tells you to hold still or make the test take longer. But you can just ignore that. There's plenty of NPCs you can chat with, and you get your PDA here. And there's another funny bit where if you stand over the shoulder of the guy at the desk for too long, he types out something hilarious. I love it when devs add funny shit like that. We're supposed to report to Sergeant Kelly in Marine HQ, but on our way, we eavesdrop on a discussion between Counselor Swan and Betruger.
Because there seems to be some very serious problems.
Oh, really? Do I need to remind you of the groundbreaking work that we're doing here?
No. But I've been authorized by the board to look at everything.
The board authorized you? The board doesn't know the first thing about science. All they want is something to make them more money, some product. Don't worry, they'll get their product.
After how many accidents? Tell me, Dr. Betruger, why are so many workers spooked, complaining, requesting transfers off Mars?
They simply can't handle life here. They're exhausted and overworked. If I had a larger, more competent staff and bigger budget, even these few accidents could have been avoided.
I'm afraid you'll get nothing more until my report is filed with the board. I will need full access, Dr. Betruger, Delta included. I won't have any difficulties doing that, will I?
Only if you get lost, Swan. Just stay out of my way. Amazing things will happen here soon. You just wait.
Let's go.
The only way Betruger could telegraph he is the villain more is if he jumped on the desk with a neon sign saying, "I am the villain, do not trust me." Betruger, man, he kind of reminds me of Emperor Palpatine or Revenge of the Sith. The dude's voice actor is hamming this shit up, and you'll see what I mean later. Anyway, we keep walking, and there's more people we can talk to, and we hear more and more things about how weird this place is and how there's something funny going on. But eventually we make it to Marine Command, and Kelly's not happy with us taking our time.
Took your sweet time, Marine? Now, here's the situation. Another member of the science team's gone missing. Since you're the ranking FNG, you get to find him. I want you to check out the old decommissioned comm facility. We heard he might be heading that way. The only way there is through the service passage under Mars City. I programmed this sentry to guide you to the maintenance elevator. I hope you follow the sentry better than you've followed orders so far. You pick up some gear at the security checkpoint at the bottom of the elevator. Oh, and when you find him, just bring him back. Do not hurt him.
Oh, I'll break both his knees and say he tripped down the steps. You can't stop me.
Now move out.
So yeah, we follow the sentry bot, which is just adorable looking, and I like how it looks over its shoulder at you to make sure you're still following it. You may have noticed I haven't mentioned any sort of combat or enemies yet. That's because there aren't any. Yet. Yeah, the demon invasion hasn't started yet. We get a little bit of time to see how this place functions before things go to shit. Functions might be a bit of a strong word now that I think about it, because through PDAs we find later and from the NPCs, it's glaringly obvious things have been rotten here for a while. Things escalate quickly in the next level. It starts with us finally getting our hands on a gun. A pistol. The pistol, well, it's a pistol. It's a weapon where you will rarely use it after you get something better. It does have some use, it's very accurate and great for headshots, which makes it useful for zombies, which we'll see in a minute. Anyway, the Marine in the security station tells us to not get excited and shoot any civilians in the area. You can be a total psycho and shoot them all and nothing will happen. It's kind of funny, actually. And this place is referred to as the dungeon and the most unexciting place on Mars, and calling it a dungeon makes sense because it's dark and dreary and we haven't even gotten to the demon invasion yet. It's coming, I assure you. The people down here all seem like they're on edge. One guy tells you that he isn't sure if you want to find the scientist, but refuses to elaborate why.
Hey! You're looking for the scientist, right? I'm not sure you want to find him. You see... never mind. Don't listen to me. Never mind what I said. I shouldn't talk about it. It's really not my business.
Eventually, we do find a scientist and,
No, please. You must let me get this communication out. They have to be warned while there is still time. I can't let... You don't know what I've seen. You can't possibly understand or comprehend. The devil is real. I know. I built his cage.
I'm getting abnormal readings here. This is bad.
Oh, God!
I can't hold these levels. We're losing! No,
boy, that escalated quickly. I have a question for you guys. Have you ever watched Aliens? You remember that scene where the Marines are in the hive and the xenomorphs start waking up and just keep picking them off one by one? The Marines are panicking and losing their shit and shouting what the hell is happening and where people are. And there's a point where you just see everything from their armor-mounted cameras and stuff, and it's very intense. That's kind of what the demonic invasion reminds me of. You hear a lot of panic and gunfire over your comms, and it does not sound like the Marines are having a good time right now. They're not doing so hot. The voice actors do a fantastic job sounding panicked, and it really makes the whole initial invasion feel intense and creepy without constantly interrupting gameplay to show you things in cutscenes. Because I 100% could picture a modern game constantly cutting to different things every time you walk like 3 feet. So the way they did this I thought was really clever and immersive too. Also, whatever that distorted sound is that comes on right before the message plays, I don't know what it is, but it's also pretty creepy.
All units, this is Sergeant Kelly. We're under attack by an unknown enemy force. Fall back to Marine HQ to regroup.
Kelly tells us we need to fall back to Marine HQ and await further orders, so that's our goal for a bit, besides not dying. Not only are demons invading, but they're possessing people and turning them into zombies, like our unfortunate scientist friend. Zombies come in a few variants. Some carry melee weapons and increase their damage if they smack you. Most of them are slow and they just shamble after you, but there are some that can move faster. The fat zombies have slightly more health. I'm just gonna chalk that up to blubber. Zombies are good fodder for the pistol, or the shotgun, which we don't have yet. The game loves having zombies ambush you, or will fill a room full of them and have them walk towards you from multiple angles. But after we kill the zombie scientists, we're greeted by the other, more deadly version of the zombie, the Z-Sec zombies.
All you
Right now, we only have to deal with the pistol version, but there's 4 variants of them. The pistol one is the weakest because, I mean, they just have a pistol. They like to lean out of cover and do these pointless action movie rolls to try and dodge your attacks. It just looks really funny to me. But pistol zombies have a glaring weakness. They can't move and shoot at the same time. As I said earlier, each enemy has a specific sound to let you know that they're there. For Z-Sec enemies, it's garbled comms chatter, which sometimes sounds like they're saying illegal checkmate. Anyway, you keep walking around hearing more and more people die over the radio, and if you stop and listen in certain rooms, you can hear others screaming and fighting in the rooms nearby, which is a very nice touch to make it seem like there are more people around you. And it becomes a lot creepier later on, and not even that far into the game, but a few levels later, you won't hear that anymore, which really makes you feel like you're the last man standing, even if you might not be.
Oh, thank you. I'm getting out of here.
The game also teases a fan favorite monster for a bit, but before that, we get a Doom staple, the shotgun. The shotgun in this game is a point of contention for a lot of people for a pretty valid reason. Its range, or lack thereof. The spread on this thing is really fucking wide, so if an enemy is not super close to you, its damage output will be lacking. Harsh language might be more effective. However, at point blank range or very close to it, this thing can one-tap a lot of enemies. I say can because the damage seems random with this thing, and it kind of is. A little bit. It's a little complicated. You see, the game has headshot damage, and if more of the shotgun's pellets hit the target in the face, the more damage it does, obviously. But because of the spread, sometimes you will one-shot the enemy, and sometimes you won't. And it can get a little frustrating because sometimes you'll end up eating damage that you didn't plan on because, like, 2 seconds ago, this would have been a one-shot. So, I understand that being a little annoying. On top of that, and this is kind of a nitpick, but this is actually something the Enhanced Edition fixes. In the vanilla version of the game, and even the BFG version, when you reload this thing, each shell is counted as 2, which is weird. But like I said, the Enhanced Edition increases the reload time and adjusts the numbers, so it makes sense. Which arguably makes a shotgun worse because now it takes longer to reload. So the shotgun has some quirks that make it divisive. How do I feel about it? I still kind of love it. The short range to me makes sense given how claustrophobic the environments are, and if the shotgun's range was increased, it would make the gun too broken to the point where you wouldn't use anything else. I have played mods that give the shotgun more range, so it does act closer to how it did in Doom 1 and 2. And with that range increase and the tighter spread, it does make the gun so effective that at times you don't need to switch weapons. It almost feel like it kind of breaks the game a little bit. But the shotgun, without any mods, forces you to do this sort of dance where you have to stay close enough to an enemy to keep it in the shotgun's effective range, but not too close for the enemy to pimp slap you. It's a weapon where it's deadly if you use it the way the game intends you to, and if you do that, you'll be married to this thing by the time you're halfway through the game, because when used properly, it slaps. You just have to understand this is not the Doom 2 or Doom 1 shotgun, it's its own beast. But eventually you run into one creepy moment that I really like. Beyond that, we encounter the imp. So the imp chucks fireballs at you that actually have gravity to them, so they kind of fly in an arc. You can crouch or duck under them or strafe if you got the room. The imp will rip your face up if you get too close to it, and it has this one really annoying ability where it'll go on all fours and then leap at you and quickly get into melee range. And this move is annoying because the devs decided to be assholes and have imps crouch and just be ready to pounce you the minute you open a door as a gotcha jump scare, and the devs love abusing this trick. Good news is, they can be easily one-tapped with the shotgun if you're close enough, and if most of the pellets hit the head. Get used to seeing the imp because the game throws a ton of them at you. Like seriously, I don't think outside of the first level where there's no enemies, I don't think there's a single level where there aren't any imps. And a lot of times the game will spawn multiple, especially on veteran difficulty because the game loves just having extras teleport in. We also meet the other version of the Z-Sec, and this one is much deadlier and much more annoying. It's the shotgunners. For some reason, despite them having the same shotgun as you, they can fire theirs faster and they have a tighter spread, meaning it's more accurate at range. However, it seems to do less damage. These fuckers love running up to you and spamming the shotgun, and it can kill you very quickly. Like the pistol variant, they can't move and shoot at the same time, which is a good thing. Basically, try to kill them from a distance before they get in close. After that, we make it back to the elevator we started at, but if you're paying attention, you can get the machine gun earlier than you meant to, if you notice on the terminal that there's a button you can press to unlock not just the elevator, but the other security cabinet that contains the gun. The machine gun is basically a weaker version of the chain gun that is more accurate at long distances and has less recoil. It does pretty good damage, and because it's so accurate, it'll end up being one of your workhorses for a good portion of the game. I usually find myself switching from the machine gun when the enemy's at range and then to the shotgun when they get closer. But after we get out of the underground, we have to make it back to Marine HQ. To get there, we gotta go through a vent because the staircase and door are broken. So the way we came initially is not gonna work. There's a survivor in here that asks you to go for help. He drops a ladder down so you can climb into the vents with them. Although after that, we meet the third variant of the Z-Sec enemies, the machine gunner. They can do something the other Z-Sec enemies can't. They can move and shoot at the same time. And like I said, with all damage in this game, when you get hit, the screen shakes. With the machine gunners, this can be really annoying if they get up close to you, because your screen will just jitter all over the place and it can make it a little bit harder to aim. Good news is, close range shot from the shotgun can one-tap them. And while we're here, the game sets up a pretty good ambush. Having a zombie spawn behind you is pretty evil. Then again, the next one decides to spawn a special zombie variant, the burning zombie. Beyond that is the infirmary, and there's a pretty creepy bit here, especially if you listen to the audio log on the PDA about a patient going psychotic. But in the next room, you run into another special zombie called the morgue zombie. This is the only time the zombie shows up. When we get to Marine HQ, Sarge calls us and tells us that he can't reach us, but he needs us to link up with Bravo Team because they have a transmission card so we can call for backup. To reach them, you gotta go through the Alpha Labs. On our way there, we get a message from Kelly telling us to take advantage of any sentry bots in the area because they have a lot of firepower. Before we get to that, there's an optional creepy moment we can trigger if we decide to go into the bathroom.
The UAC is here to help you.
That was pretty random. Yeah, every once in a while the game loves to just have something mildly creepy happen, like turning the lights red or changing the textures in a room to make them look bloody or creepier. We do quickly find a sentry bot, and despite it looking cute, this thing is an absolute beast and it'll just wreck everything. And you know what? I really need to order a few of these for the archives. They can absolutely shred enemies to the point where I barely have to do anything. However, friendly fire is a thing, so don't stand in front of them. After clearing several halls with our trusty robot friend, we have to get into the elevator and head to the administration zone. Here we get a cutscene of Counselor Swan arguing with Betruger.
I don't think you understand, Dr. Betruger. No, I understand everything.
I'm telling you now, Doctor, the UAC is taking over this operation.
Operation? Is that what you're calling it?
The situation is out of control.
It's not out of control, Swan. You are.
Look, if this ain't out of control, I hate to see what he considers in control.
I'll manage this, and you and your flunky will be taking control of nothing. Do you understand?
Yes, Betruger. I think I do understand.
Okay, plan B.
Also, a funny side note, this has nothing to do with my opinion of the game, I just think it's funny. I don't know why, but there was a point where I kept confusing Campbell and Sargent thinking they were the same person. But to get out of this level, we need to up our security clearance, but to do that, we gotta go find a PDA. On our way to getting it, we run into a classic demon sporting a radically different design. The pinky, despite looking differently and actually looking like a pinky, functions identically to how it does in the old games. It just runs at you and tries to maul you. Problem is, like I mentioned earlier, if it hits you, the screen goes flying, meaning it can pretty much stun lock you if you can't get out of the way or back up. So if this thing corners you, you're probably fucked, which is why you may notice me dying here. The shotgun is super effective on them as long as you can keep out of their reach. And I love how this first encounter is set up, the way it baits you into thinking it's going to break through the door, only to then switch up and break the glass. That made me jump out of my seat the first time. I do like the design, mostly because their head looks like a pinky to me. And the mechanical legs on the back are a nice touch and just make them look different from everything else. While we're here, if you know the code for it, there's a special Martian buddy locker housing a chain gun for you. This is a weapon you're not meant to get until way later in the game. The chain gun is really powerful and does good damage, does a good rate of fire despite it having a wind-up, but it has two issues. It only holds 60 shots before it needs to reload. Fortunately, the reload is pretty fast, so it's not a deal breaker. The other problem is it's not terribly accurate at longer ranges. Unfortunately, if you do get it from the locker here, don't expect to find ammo for it anytime soon. To get the code, if I remember correctly, you had to go to an external site called MartianBuddy.com, and as far as I know, if you go to the site now, it just redirects you to Bethesda's website. The site doesn't really exist anymore. But you can find the code pretty easily if you just search online. Also in one of the lockers are grenades. Grenades kind of suck. They have a tendency to bounce off of objects, and I have on more than one occasion had one bounce back to me and blow up my face and kill me instantly. They can be useful if you think an enemy's lying in wait, because what you can do is you can throw the grenade, and if it touches an enemy, it'll just automatically explode, and it's usually an insta-kill. I actually got better use out of them in this playthrough than I've had in the past, and I thought it was weird, but then I looked at what the Enhanced Edition modifies. It makes the grenades bounce a lot less, so the odds of them bouncing back to you and blowing you up are lowered. You can also cook grenades by holding onto them to throw them farther, but don't hold them for too long because they'll blow up. In Vanilla Doom 3 and in the BFG edition, I almost never use them. As we keep going, Sarge warns us that he's gotten reports of some sort of unidentified growth taking over parts of the base, and we quickly find out what he's referring to. Yeah, from now on, enemies have a new way of getting the drop on you. Teleporting. I love the sound design for it, including this weird demonic whispering. With the PDA from the Cursed Office, we can head to the Alpha Lab to try and reach Bravo Team. Overall, the first batch of levels are pretty solid, and from the word go, the game has this unsettling atmosphere to it. Even before the demons start attacking you, you get the impression that there is something wrong here. There is an elephant in the room I haven't brought up yet, a certain influential FPS that the devs either consciously or subconsciously took cues from. The game in question being Half-Life, and if you've played Half-Life or watched somebody play it, you can see the influence in the first level, because in Half-Life, you're given time to explore the Black Mesa facility for a little bit. You can interact with NPCs and just interact with stuff in general. And in Doom 3, you get to explore the UAC facility for a little bit and do the same thing. Although Doom 3 puts a great emphasis on horror than action when it comes to this setup. As far as a set piece, the invasion bit is well done. The sound department and the voice acting of the Panic Marines really sells it, and the different events that trigger as you walk through the halls do a good job of keeping you on your toes and making you feel paranoid. I also appreciate that this game doesn't waste our time with a long drawn out tutorial at any point. It trusts you enough to figure things out on your own, or it'll have an unobtrusive little pop-up on the screen that'll tell you something, if it's something that wouldn't be immediately obvious to you as a player. But now on to Alpha Labs to catch up to Bravo so we can get some backup in here before we're all dead. Alpha Labs. We're gonna be here a while. You see, Alpha Labs is 4 sectors and each sector is long as shit. Things are quieter now. You won't hear any more radio chatter from Marines still fighting for their lives, which is not a good sign. The first sector has a cool bit where we're introduced to a brand new enemy, and I won't lie, this is probably the creepiest monster intro in the game. Yeah, not freaky at all. These enemies are called maggots. They mostly crawl on all fours, but they can stand up on their back legs. They don't have any ranged attacks, so they have to get into melee range with you or jump at you. It seems like they'll switch from all fours and randomly stand up to throw off your aim. I don't think they're very good at it though. Like a lot of enemies, you can kill them in one hit with the shotgun. I do like the design, and the intro for them, like I said, is really unsettling. But Sector 1 continues, and we end up finding a scientist on one of the upper levels that could not be asked to give a fuck about the demonic invasion right now.
Oh, you startled me. Man, I'm ever glad to see you. I thought I was all alone. It's been freaking spooky lately. The Hydra gun's blown a few circuits and is unstable. Be careful with that gun. A stray bullet into the glass shields could blow the whole area. I'm gonna try and get this thing stabilized. I'll head to the science office when I have this under control.
Yeah, he warns us to be careful where we fire our gun, and he's not just saying that either, because there's a room up ahead where if you shoot the machinery, well... Yeah, it only lasts for this specific room, and part of me kind of feels like this could have been played up more by maybe having there be 1 or 2 areas where you had to be careful where you shot your gun. But on the flip side, I could see that getting mega annoying, so maybe it's a good thing they didn't do that. But that's pretty much it for Sector 1. Sector 2 starts off strong with some paranormal stuff.
Here at the UAC, we make
Not even the bathroom in this level is free from dangers either. There's one section I do have to mention because it's actually a secret, and it's hidden so well I didn't even know about it until I saw a random video on my YouTube recommended showing it to me like a couple years ago. Now I'm wondering if there's any more secret areas that I missed. It might not seem like a big deal, but I just thought it was neat, especially with the strange, creepy transmission and the fact that it's kind of a secret within a secret. Just kind of creepy. I was expecting it to lead to some crazy good scare once you found the armor and started working your way back, but nothing happens. And somehow, that made it feel even more uneasy to me. Okay, there's one other highlight for Sector 2, and that's where you find another living scientist. He tells us that the lighting systems in the area up ahead are fried, but he has a lamp. We can escort him through the area and he'll allow us to see and keep our weapon out. Notice I said we can escort him, not that we must. That's because you can just let him die if you want. This section doesn't overstay its welcome, and I do like how it messes with you and it doesn't immediately throw enemies into the mix. Sadly, this section and any tension it has is completely ruined in the BFG edition, since you have the armor-mounted flashlight and you can see and shoot at the same time. What is a little bit weird is it almost feels like the game penalizes you for protecting him the entire time, because when you reach the exit, he's killed by imps and then you have to fight them. But if he dies before you reach the end, then the game won't spawn them. But after that, we're introduced to one of the worst enemies in the game, the Trite. Yeah, it's an upside down head with spider legs, and saying that aloud I'm 99% convinced that this was a reference to John Carpenter's The Thing. And you know what? That movie's awesome, so design-wise I get a plus, at least from the visual department. But as far as an enemy goes, this thing is the bane of my existence. You may be asking why. Because they come in large numbers, and remember how I said the camera freaks out whenever you're hit, and it makes it harder to aim at whatever's attacking you? These guys exploit that. You are likely to get cornered by them simply because there's so many of them, and you can end up being tossed into a blender as they attack you while you struggle to line up your shots. And you will die, or take a massive amount of damage. The only good thing about the Trites is they do die pretty quickly. Hell, the pistol can kill them in a couple of hits. Although weirdly enough, the enhanced edition changes their blood effects from green to red. Not really sure why that is. Weird change. But these enemies are just beyond annoying. Sector 3 starts us having to do is it even fair to call this a puzzle, really? It's basically a claw machine where you have to grab these toxic barrels and dump them into the disposal unit one at a time. And while it is a change of pace for what we've been doing throughout the past levels, it does feel like a drag, especially on replays. There is an optional spooky path you can go down, which I recommend, despite it very obviously being a trap because it's something you get at the end. Again, the sound department was cooking because, the sounds you hear walking down this hallway are just effective at getting under your skin, and I love it. Outside of that, there's not really much to talk about with this level. The next, and thankfully the last part of Alpha Labs, is pretty noteworthy for it not existing on the Xbox version. Instead, what they had to do was they had to chop the end of this level and put it into the end of Alpha Sector 3. But we'll get to that in a minute. The game actually gives you a choice here. You see there's a scientist stuck in some kind of machine, and you can turn it on and kill him, or unlock the doors and free him. Killing him will cause the room to go into lockdown. A bunch of ZSEG enemies will flood the room and you gotta kill them all. Burying him will cause him to unlock a door with a stockpile of weapons for you. There's also a really neat scare here you can trigger. If you're wondering if that's going to be relevant at any point in the story, the answer is no. There is a theory about who is saying this, but I don't think anyone's ever confirmed it, so I just chalk it up to it's just the devs being creepy. And it's creepy, I'm not gonna lie. And there's a PDA you can find where one of the staff down here mentions how his other employees were also saying they were hearing voices, and he thought they were full of it until it happened to him, and according to him, no one else was working in the area. This is gonna come up in a minute. After that, Kelly calls us and says we have another choice to make.
Marine, base schematics show all passages out of your area blocked. The only way through is by traversing the EFR, mechanical subsystem with 2 possible routes through it. Activating the system will get you a direct route, but it's dangerous. Extending the service bridges is safer, but the lighting systems are fried. Make your choice. Good luck.
Sarge, with all due respect, have you seen the state of this base? What part of this place doesn't have faulty lighting? Turning on the EFR requires you to do a lot of platforming and you can get knocked off and die. So I went and picked the path that doesn't do that. As we keep going, we end up hearing voices again. Now, in any other game, you would probably think you're not supposed to follow those voices and you shouldn't, right? There's actually a good reason to do it because you can get the plasma gun here. And the plasma gun is fantastic in this game. Its rate of fire is lower than what it was in classic Doom, but its damage is very good, and it doesn't share ammo with the BFG. Its main strength is its hitboxes on its projectiles are way larger than you think they are, so a lot of times, they'll end up intercepting enemy projectiles for you, even if you're not deliberately aiming at them. This is very useful for shutting down revenants, which we won't see for a little while actually. But at the end of this level, we reach the first boss of the game. Meet the Vagary. Oh man, the Vagary. I hate this thing. The reason why is because its main method of attacking you is kind of annoying. It levitates objects in the environment and throws them at you, and they hit like a truck. The main problem is there's very little time to react before they go flying into you, and I guess the game tries to remedy this by giving them an audio cue. According to the wiki, what you're supposed to do is duck whenever you hear the sound. But to me, that I don't know, it just never, I don't know why, I kind of forget you can crouch sometimes, and it just never clicked in my brain to duck, so I would just circle strafe. Because you're a fucking idiot. And sometimes I could avoid it, but sometimes I'd still get hit anyway. Strategy I use is just to hammer her with the chain gun or a plasma rifle, and that usually works before her attacks end up killing me. And fun fact, on the original Xbox port, this fight was harder because after you killed her, the room would fill with trites. But eventually, the spider will go down and you can leave Alpha behind. And I'm gonna be honest, Alpha goes on for way too long. Like, this could have been cut down. You could have put the Vagary at the end of Sector 3 and have that bit be the end of Alpha. Or you could just cut Sector 3 out entirely and then just have Sector 4 and call it a day. I think the pacing would improve if you did that. And that's kind of what the Xbox port did. They just took the end of Sector 4 and stapled that onto the end of Sector 3 and called it a day. And to be fair to the Xbox port, they had to break Sector 1 and 2 into multiple levels due to memory limitations, which I actually think made their pacing feel a little bit better because Sector 1 feels like it goes on for a while. Anyway, we still gotta catch up to Bravo Team. Hopefully they're managing since it took us forever to get through the Alpha Labs.
Bravo Team, entry secure. Moving to take positions. Quiet. Did you hear that? This is Lane. Give me status. Always clear. There's nothing here, Sam. Go on.
Oh. Well, that's not great. And now the reactor is having a meltdown and we gotta replace the cooling rod before the thing gets too hot and blows up everything. Fun. Don't worry, there's no time limit or anything, the devs aren't that sadistic. And the level opens up with us getting another sentry bot buddy. After that, we hear a woman crying. Oh. Yeah, the lost souls are back. So take all the negatives I said about the trite, but have it be flying and have it ram into you at high speeds to constantly bite you if you don't get back or kill it fast enough. They're annoying, just like the lost souls in pretty much every Doom game. The plasma gun is your friend here, and anyway, we end up replacing the coolant rod before things go boom, and on a camera we see Swan and Campbell looking for the transmission card. They don't find it, so they decide to go to the communications tower to block transmissions from there. While we're here, we meet a new demon, the Wraith. The Wraith is kind of weird because they'll stop moving and then disappear, and at first I thought they were teleporting. You can actually hear their footsteps as they move closer to you. They can't be damaged or touched, and they can't damage or touch you, so it's like they're phasing out of reality, which I guess is why they're called Wraiths. Now, normally when they go in and out of that state, they have to stop moving. You can clearly tell when they are about to vanish or reappear due to the sound effect and the glowing. But in the Enhanced Edition, they can move a little when returning, which threw me off a bit. What's also weird about them is, in the game, they just appear without any introduction cutscene. But then the game decides to give them one later when we find the last survivor Bravo team. Okay, well he's technically not the last if the lost missions are canon, which I don't think they are because some of the stuff in that contradicts the ending of this game, but we'll get to that in a separate video.
I don't know how much farther I can go. Here, take the transmission card.
We can't stay here. It isn't safe. We better move.
In the Xbox port, you don't meet the Wraith until after the scene, which makes a lot more sense to me. This level, compared to Alpha Labs at least, was a breeze in terms of pacing and didn't overstay its welcome. Plus, it feels like we're making progress with our objective now, since we got the card. Now we need to get to the comms center, and this is broken into 2 levels, with the first being comms transfer, and this level introduces the Caco Demon. Yeah, the goobers are looking less gooberish here, but they function like the original. But now you can shoot their projectiles out of the air. This level has a pretty neat scare early on, and I just want to highlight it. Yeah, that creature behind the door, you never see it again. So it's like they modeled this thing just for this one scare. And you know what? It's good. I like it. I didn't expect that the first time through. I just thought the minute you picked up the item that an enemy was going to spawn or the door was going to open and, I don't know, like a bunch of imps or something were going to come out of there. But even after that, the game does some more creepy shit when you crawl into the vent by having some demonic laughter and moving a skeleton randomly. I guess hell got jokes. After some battles and going out on the surface for a little bit, we end up in a room and there's a special zombie waiting for us here. If you want to know why the hell there's chainsaws on Mars, there's a PDA mentioning how it was a shipping mistake. I just think it's funny because that seems like a pretty realistic reason for there to be chainsaws here. I don't need to say much about the chainsaw zombies besides, well, they have chainsaws, don't let them get close to you. But you actually get to pick up and use a chainsaw, and it's just a regular weapon here. It doesn't work like the one in Doom 2016 or Eternal. It doesn't generate resources for you. Here it has infinite ammo, I guess, and it's just a better melee option. After you deal with that, the game does another cool horror bit here. This level really be spoiling us with the horror elements. Unfortunately, this level has an annoying puzzle where you have to use the cargo lift to get up to a level so you can access a terminal so you can unlock the exit to this area. It's not hard, it's just kind of one of those things that just slows the pace down even more and just feels kind of tedious on repeat playthroughs. But before we get to the exit, we're given a little treat. Yeah, this is one of 2 whole times, yes, count them, 2 times in the entire game that you will get the Berserk power-up. The screams that play while you have it is a nice touch. I've heard some people find it silly. I do think they could have been more done with it if they wanted to make it creepy, but it's fine. But what doesn't help is that the animations for punching are kind of weak and the sound effect for them isn't great either. I do like that the screams are basically the game's way of telling you when the Berserk is active, because once they stop, the insta-kill punches do too. Sadly, this is the only power-up in the campaign besides the adrenaline power-up, which is also kind of rare. I'm sure it's used more in multiplayer, but I've never messed with multiplayer in this game, so I don't know. Next up is the actual communications tower, and this level is a drag. It goes on for a while. First, it just seems like we just need to get to the comms room, but there's a problem.
Communication system overload.
Yeah. They're sabotaging us. Oh, and the last variant of the Z-Sec enemies show up, the Riot Shield variant. They carry a pistol and a bulletproof shield. They don't show up at all outside of this level, which is kind of weird they exist at all. You can kill them by throwing a grenade at their feet or shooting them in the foot, or you can use the chainsaw on them if you're close enough. Once we get into the communications room, Kelly tells us we need to still send that transmission and that we can from satellite control. But we have to cut through engineering to do it. And this is where the level drags because you gotta go through so much to get there that it just kind of feels like filler to me. At least you get another sentry bot to help you out at one point. When you do make it to the satellite room, Swan calls you and tells you not to call for reinforcements.
Marine, you hear me? Back off from that console. Do not call for reinforcements. We don't know what the hell is going on here. And until we do, this area remains under UAC control. Cancel that transmission.
Satellite.
You actually have a choice here. You can send the transmission, which will anger Swan, and he'll tell you to stay out of his way, and that you have no idea what you've done, and that you might have just endangered Earth, which you did, he's right. If you decide to not send the transmission, Swan tells you that you made the right choice, and to go meet him and Campbell at the monorail so you can help him get to Delta to try and put a stop to this. Sarge will get mad at you for violating a direct order.
Transmission terminated.
We did the right thing. Until we know what's happening here, we need to keep ourselves sealed off from everyone else. The monorail entrance looks clear. Meet up with us there. We need to reach the Delta complex and stop this.
Marine, you have just violated a direct order. Get your ass back to that console and send that transmission. Marine, this is your last chance to get...
While it's nice that they give you a choice, it ultimately doesn't matter as it only affects the dialogue here and one other place that we'll get to in a minute. Either way, your next objective is the monorail. And you think the entrance to it would be like a few rooms over, but no, you gotta go through maintenance and then reach an elevator back to communications. And then you can go through the now unlocked door to the monorail. Yeah, this is why I said this level kind of drags a bit. But hey, at least we completed an objective, so there's that. ENPRO was pretty fun, and Communications Transfer has some good scares in it. But the rest is just kind of eh. At least it didn't completely drag like the Alpha Labs did. But next up is the monorail so we can get to Delta, where the invasion started. Unfortunately, getting to the monorail is not so easy. Yeah, we have to take a little detour to the recycling plant. I will say visually, this area feels very different to everything we've seen so far. It has a dirty, muddy vibe to it. Like, I feel like I need to get a tetanus shot and a full just decontamination, like I just came from a radiation zone just for being here. I would hate to work in this place even if there weren't any demons running around. It just genuinely feels uninviting, and I would be super paranoid about something jumping out of the shadows at me. And speaking of demons, we run into a fan favorite here. Yeah, Skeletor's distant cousins are here, and I guess they think we're He-Man because they've got rockets with our names written on them. The rockets can track you, but it's nowhere near as egregious as the homing projectiles they use in Doom 2. Also, there's a very easy way to shut it down, assuming you have plasma gun ammo, because if you so much as fire it in the general direction of their rockets, you can detonate them mid-flight no problem. And if they're close enough to the detonation, it can actually damage them. But if you don't have plasma gun ammo, there's another decent way to deal with them. Grab the shotgun and get in their face. If you're too close, they won't use their rockets. They will try to bitch slap you, but you can bait the attack out, back up, and blast them with a shotgun and loop them like this so they can't use their rockets. They can tank a few shotgun blasts to the face though, and sometimes the game will spawn them far away, so the strategy I just laid out with the shotgun doesn't always work. The rocket launcher is also effective, but we don't have that yet. I will say, the revenants do look a little goofy in this game, but there's something charming about it, so I don't mind it. For some reason, I forgot how much the game spawns them here, because you'll be seeing a lot of them. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because they're pretty fun to fight. And they're a change of pace since they don't try to run at you like a lot of other enemies. They just slowly walk towards you so they have enough line of sight to fire rockets. At one point we have to shut down a broken pump that is flooding the area we need to go with toxic sludge. And to do that, we gotta do some platforming across the pipes. A little later, we do get the rocket launcher. A rocket launcher? In tight quarters like this? Yeah, it does seem kinda strange, doesn't it? And it feels very situational because if you use it in the wrong area, you'll blow yourself up. But in the more open areas, the rocket launcher is a beast. Because it hits like a truck. It's good for shutting down certain enemies like the Revenant. But its real use will come up with some of the enemies we'll meet later. But after a brief trip over the surface, we transfer over to the second sector of the recycling area, and here's where things get interesting. But Truger remembers that he's the main antagonist of the game and decides to address you directly.
Making progress, are we? And in such a hurry to find us, to find me. There's no need to rush. I am everywhere, and everything here is mine. It's a pity you did not alert the fleet, but it is of no consequence. I'll alert them myself. They will come to the rescue and be consumed by my legion. We will use their ships to bring this hell to Earth. You won't live to see it, and you will die long before you have a chance to warn them.
Parts of his dialogue will change if you warn the fleet or not. If you did, he thanks you for it and then calls you an idiot and points out how you played right into his hands. Either way, the Marine is kind of an idiot for leaving the transmission card in the satellite control room. I'm guessing he thought, well, I'll leave it here so if we do resolve the situation we can call for help then. But he probably should have destroyed it or taken it with him. No, hindsight being 20/20 and all. But hey, at least now we have more stakes and a ticking clock. So now our objective is no longer to just survive, but to stop Betruger. He also really wants us to die and triggers a toxic gas leak while also spawning in a ton of demons to stop us.
There's nothing left for you but a slow death as your lungs fill with toxic gases.
To get out of here, we have to stop the toxic gas leak. You aren't on a timer, thankfully. After unlocking some hazard doors to continue, we run into a new enemy. These are cherubs, and they're about as annoying as Detroit, maybe slightly less annoying. Like Detroit, they come in groups, and they have the ability to launch themselves at you while throwing hands, and it has an alarming amount of reach. Good news is they can be easily killed, but you really don't want them in your face. Freaky design though, especially with their glowing eyes and the fact that, you know, they're like a cross between an insect and a baby. Though I think lurkers, I think that's what they're called in Dead Space, have them beat in creepy baby enemy department, but these guys are unnerving, especially the sounds they make. And those freaky glowing eyes, I don't know what it is, but I just find the idea of something standing in total darkness, the only thing you can see of them is just their glowing eyes staring back at you. I just find that really creepy. I guess it's like that saying about being alone in the dark isn't scary. It's not being alone in the dark that is. Anyway, that's not the only new enemy the game throws at us here. Yeah, The fatties are back, and looking like they read some H.P. Lovecraft between Doom 2 and now because of them tentacles on their faces. I do love the detail of how their weapons look like they've been crudely attached to their bodies and there's red, bloodied flesh around them like they've just been stuck on in the most just barbaric way possible. It's a nice little detail. Despite their look, they fight like how you'd expect the Mancubus to fight. They move slow, but their projectiles do not, and they pack a punch. They're also walking tanks and can eat a bunch of rockets to the face before going down. You don't encounter them often, probably because they'd have a hard time fitting into most of the corridors in this game. The only strategy I have is, and you're gonna want to have a pen ready because it's a long one, I'll give you a second. You ready? Okay, here's the strat. You ready? The strategy is to keep moving and shoot it until it dies, preferably with a rocket launcher or a BFG if you got one. After dealing with a room full of them, the game decides to spawn in cherubs just for fun. What's also not fun is mad dashing through a room full of toxic fumes that quickly drain your health to activate 3 consoles to vent out all the poison, and you have very little time to do it. I'm not joking, you lose 10 health roughly every second.
Your soul burn in hell.
Toxicity level detected. Air scrubber 1 of 3. Air scrubber 2 of 3 activated.
Once you turn on all the air scrubbers, you can limp your way back to the door that was sealed due to all the toxic gas. Congratulations, we made it to the monorail proper this time.
Rise, quas more. There is no death for you.
Oh yeah, these fuckers are now a thing. We'll worry about that in a second because we have a train to catch. I guess Swan and Campbell left without us and assumed we were demon food. Can't say I blame them. Before we get on the train, the game does something creepy. Yeah, that's inspiring confidence in me that something horrible won't happen. Turns out there's actually a survivor on the train, and he tells us that the Delta Complex is not safe at all, and that he's not getting off the train, and I can't say I blame him. So we get a cozy train ride, and oh, never mind, an airlock is malfunctioning, so we have to dock at Site 2 and fix the problem.
Look,
Now
I don't think this
entering
train is
Site
safe
2.
either. We don't know what's ahead.
Warning, airlock malfunction. Please contact engineering to facilitate repairs. Thank you, and have a nice day.
Lovely. Okay, time to talk about the Commando. I remember on the special features of the 2005 Doom movie, you know, the one with The Rock that doesn't have the monsters be demons for some reason. There was a part in the special features where John Carmack said in Doom 3, everyone had a specific monster that terrified them. For me, that's the Commando, although terrify is a bit of a strong word, more like makes me uneasy and paranoid. Remember how I said every enemy has an audio cue letting you know that they're there and that you've aggroed them, likely before you even see them? Yeah, the Commando throws that out of the window because their audio cue is very subtle, and sometimes you have less than a second to react before they're up in your face and beating your ass. They can move faster than you even when you're sprinting, so trying to back off like you would for any other enemy, it's not gonna work. Their whip arm has some crazy reach too. Now the good news is you can dodge it by crouching, and the best way to deal with them is to crouch with the shotgun and fire a shot or two into them while they're still in their recovery animation of the lunge. Although sometimes this won't work because they might instead do a leaping kick that you can't duck under. A shotgun blast to the head can kill them very quickly, thankfully. In the Alpha build, the Commandos had a different voice and they were much louder and more over the top and way more aggressive sounding as they would taunt you, but this was cut and the lines they do speak that made into the release are very quiet and more creepy. I tried to find it just to make sure I was remembering this correctly, but I remember seeing somewhere where it said in the Alpha build, the Commandos were voiced by Trent Reznor from 9 Inch Nails. But I couldn't find anything on the wikis about the Alpha to back that up. But they do state that a lot of the unused sound effects were made by him, so maybe they're right, I don't know. I get why the Alpha voice lines didn't make it into the final game because it seems like the devs really wanted the Commando demon to be the best at ambushing the player, and having them loudly yell stuff like bleed mortal or eat your soul would have telegraphed them too hard. And believe me, this game fucking loves to have them get the jump on you.
Surprise, motherfucker.
And since you can't outrun them, like I said, them getting the drop on you is a much bigger deal than anything else in the game. And there's 2 versions of the commando, but we won't see the other for a while. We have to fight our way to a station and put in the code to override the lockdown. Then we can get back to the train, and unfortunately, our train buddy got killed by a trike while we were gone. Now we can reach Delta and absolutely nothing can stop us now.
Now leaving Site 2. Next stop, Delta Complex.
Huh. Well, that was a little anticlimactic. Hopefully Swan and Campbell can handle this themselves.
Engineering, please report to Delta Complex access ramp. Track sensor failure detected.
Either our Marine is a fucking Terminator or a Fast and Furious protagonist. I guess we're walking the rest of the way to the Delta Labs, dealing with more commandos and other demons along the way. Before we can just walk into Delta Labs, there's live automated turret guns that will not just target the demons, but us too.
Warning, automated turret guns online. Warning, automated turret guns online.
Good news is the PDA we picked up has the shutdown code, so we can enter Delta Labs without being riddled by bullets. This part was pretty fun. It didn't drag itself out too long, and the recycling plant visually was a nice change. Monorail was also pretty neat, and I also like that they dropped a lot of new enemies on us and some new weapons just to keep things fresh. And it still feels like we're actually making progress now. On to Delta Labs, ground zero for all of this. You know what? I was gonna explain how effective the intro to Delta Labs is for building tension, but it would be simpler for me to just show you, so I'm just gonna let it play without any commentary.
All Delta operations suspended. Emergency power only. All Delta operations suspended. Systems down. Emergency power only. All watch us. Emergency power only. All Delta operations suspended. Operations suspended.
Yeah, the fact that you don't get jumped at all by demons even after picking up the data linker, that threw me for a loop because 90% of the times in games, if you're going through an area and no enemies are attacking you, and then you find an item you need to progress, that's usually when the enemies will spawn and start killing you. But we get a call from Sarge and his demeanor is a little different.
Green, this is Kelly. If you're watching this, you're tougher than I thought. I guess things aren't always what they seem. Plans have changed. Delta Complex 1's been compromised. You're not safe there. I'm moving to Secure Service Tunnel 1. It's not far from your position. We'll meet there.
I don't know, maybe he's just tired, maybe he needs a coffee or something. But now we get attacked by enemies. We have to make our way to the reactor and turn it back on. And Betruger's disembodied voice taunts us about everyone being dead and that we'll join them. Again, dude is just hamming it up as a villain. And I love it, wouldn't change a thing.
Your friends are with me now. Soon, you'll join them.
After we turn on the reactor, we have a run-in with the other version of the Commando Demon. The chain gun version is way more deadly than the tentacle one and can kill you stupid quick if you don't shut them down immediately. And you're really fucked if they decide to be an asshole and run up to you and fire the chain gun in your face. Best move is to back up and use the rocket launcher to kill them ASAP. It takes 1 or 2 rockets to kill them. And on our way to the main elevator to get out of this level, we get jumped by 2 of them. So I hope you saved up on rockets because you'll need them. The next sector gets really interesting because there's a survivor here.
There. Oh, thank God. You're not one of them. I thought everyone else was gone. I was part of this. I helped them. The madness of opening to another dimension. Look, we don't have much time. We let it through. The evil, the protective stabilizer on the portal just failed after Betruger took the device. It was an artifact we had found in the ruins. He took it into the portal, and hell followed him out. You have to help me first.
Yeah, we gotta get that plasma inducer if we want to get out of here. We gotta jump through some hoops and even solve another puzzle. For this one, we have to get the crane to take a specimen container down, then tell it to put it back in the same slot while we stand on top of it so we can then jump off and walk across a platform and then enter a vent. After that, we can see that there's a BFG waiting for us behind a locked door. Problem is, we need the code. To get it, you'd have to go back to a PDA that you may have found in Alpha Labs, and if you didn't get it, I mean, you can just Google it. Either way, if you don't want to do that, don't worry, you can get it later. The BFG works very differently here if you've watched my videos on Doom 2016 and Eternal. Tapping the fire button releases a low-powered shot that still does respectable damage, but you can charge it by holding the button down. It will consume more ammo, but it hits even harder. But you don't want to hold it for too long, or else the gun will explode and kill you. To be fair, they did say it was a prototype, and I hope they iron that out in later revisions, because that's kind of a big deal. The BFG fires a green orb that sends out tendrils that do damage to any enemies nearby. Then the orb will detonate and explode for massive damage. If you hit an enemy directly with the orb, it does even more damage, and a fully charged shot with a direct hit can kill most things in one hit. Probably don't need to say this, but ammo for the BFG is ultra rare for a good reason, because if it wasn't, it would break the game. But eventually we do find the plasma inducer and we give it to the guy. He gives us a video disc that if you play it, it gives you context for what the hell is going on. The UAC found ruins on Mars and began studying and translating them, and they were able to reverse engineer portal tech from the Mars civilization. However, when they were testing these teleporters, they realized something interesting. They were briefly passing through another dimension. Turns out that dimension was hell. So the UAC, in their infinite wisdom, decided to begin experimenting and sending teams into hell to try and learn more. And Dr. Betruger got real interested in it, and a specific artifact called the Soul Cube that they found. Betruger then took the Soul Cube into hell, and after that, that's when the demons invaded. And the only way to stop the invasion is to get the Soul Cube. We end up using the teleporter to get to the other side, and it isn't long before another new demon makes a dramatic entrance. Yeah, the Archvile is here. Rather than reviving dead enemies, they just summon in new ones. They usually summon imps and commandos, but the wiki claims that they can summon Hell Knights in later levels, and I'm trying to remember if I've ever seen them do that. Either way, you should kill them as fast as possible. They either attack by summoning a line of fire in front of them, or, and the mod I'm using makes them more likely to do this, they can create a pillar of fire under you, which is harder to dodge. If you get too close, they'll smack you in the face. One weakness they have is they're very slow moving, which means they're fodder for the rocket launcher, or the BFG if you got it. You end up meeting yet another survivor who is way too casual about what's happening here.
You surprised me. I'm glad to see you. I would have hoped they would have sent more than just one guy, though. I've been studying one of the specimens we brought back to see if there's something physiological that would be a weakness, a way to stop them. I found nothing so far. Haven't had enough time. I'm gonna stay here and keep looking. It's the only thing I can do. There are combat supplies in the storage cabinet in the next room. The code is 624. I hope you can use it.
Dude is way too chill, especially when you consider there's a room full of enemies right next door to him. We also find out that they were bringing demons back through the portal to experiment on and study, and we keep seeing them in holding tubes, and some of them aren't dead.
To the Delta Complex stasis chamber. This facility was constructed to house and
Not gonna lie, I fully expected some of these tanks to explode and the demons inside to come at me, but no, that doesn't happen. We also find where the Soul Cube was being studied before Betruger took it, and there's a strange container here. The devs got jokes. Anyway, Betruger tells us that he has a Soul Cube in hell and will never find it. And to that I say, hold my fucking shotgun. The Sector 3 has us experimenting with portals to get around. Betruger is here and he orders his commando minions to stop us, and they even blow up a bridge to slow us down. When we get to the exit, Betruger again continues to talk mad shit about how we'll die.
Making progress, Marine? Your journey is futile. You will die, and your soul will be mine.
He says the same thing in the next and last sector of Delta, and let's just say, yeah, this place is gonna need some lemon pledge. Someone decided to redecorate the place with a lot of blood, and there's chainsaw zombies here. We make it to the portal where the invasion started from, but Betruger is already there and turns the portal on.
You cannot escape.
The Hell Knight is an absolute unit. It can soak up a ton of damage and it throws larger but slower plasma balls that hit like a truck. Its melee attacks are also nothing to sneeze at. The BFG and the rocket launcher are your best friends here. After you kill the Hell Knights, Betruger has the bright idea to send you to hell.
Your hell awaits you.
At first, I was worried Delta Labs is gonna be like Alpha, but they do a good job mixing things up. The opening bit was pretty effective at building tension and putting us on edge, and the part with the portals was a nice change of pace. The finale bit, I kinda wish was longer, but I also get that it's a reference to the end of Doom's first episode where you fight the two Hell Knights before entering Hell. Overall, I really like this section. Hell. Took us a while to get here, didn't it? Hell? I gotta say, it opens up strong.
Welcome to my domain. Behold the shape of things to come. The time has come for the forces of hell to escape their prison and drive mankind into darkness. Your darkest fears will soon be realized as your soul burns in hell.
That is a good first impression, a bit campy, but I'm not complaining. The giant skull face structure in front of you is certainly a sight to behold. You may have noticed that we've lost all of our weapons and we have to recover them. However, all the weapons we get are the ones that appear in Doom 1 and Doom 2, with the exception of the super shotgun because that's not in this game. You gotta go to the expansion for that. But this means that the machine gun is not here. Entering the portal has us get put into a bird cage. Imps here sport a different design. Their skin looks more fleshy and is covered in blood and what appears to be like demonic sigils carved into it. This has led to a theory that the demons grow an extra layer of skin to adapt to Mars' atmosphere. A little further on, we run into the Hell Knight also sporting a similar look. The sound design here is pretty good too, as you hear the wailing of the damned constantly, and Betruga's laughs. Unfortunately, there's a really ugly section ahead where you have to platform across the void, and the game decides to be a dick and spawn lost souls. Somehow I didn't get knocked into the void by these little bastards this time. That usually happens to me at least once. You keep fighting through the dark castles, and I noticed something here. The game feels a bit more action-packed. Despite being in hell, the game overall feels less scary. It's not a bad thing, mind you. You also do not have the flashlight here, which to be fair, you don't necessarily need it because you can see pretty well. There's also the added benefit hell gives you. You have infinite sprint here. I'll be honest, I still kind of forget it's a thing. At one point we ride down an elevator and we're just dropped into a room with a berserk power up. And take a good look at it, because this is the last time you'll get to use it. So have fun channeling your inner Mike Tyson for 30 seconds and punch the daylights out of the demons. You can tell the devs put a lot of time and effort into making hell a set piece here with how varied the environments are and all the effects going on. And this is still my favorite version of Hell in Doom. It's dark, it's atmospheric, it feels ancient, and it's definitely somewhere you do not want to be. There's a part where you have to time your movements so you don't get crushed on the giant mashers, while also trying not to get annihilated by the mancubi in the area. And the game is not afraid to throw some of the tougher enemies at you. There's a bunch of Hell Knights here and aforementioned mancubi. Eventually make it to a large room with a portal in the center. Don't immediately jump into it, because if you circle around behind it, there's a hidden path with a BFG waiting for you. And you'll probably need it for what's next.
Save us.
Yeah, it's the second boss of the game, the Guardian of Hell. This fight is pretty interesting, as shooting it till it dies is not the move here. The Guardian is blind, but those little things floating around it that have flashlight for faces called Seekers, they can see you. You see where this is going?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
If they spot you, they'll call over the Guardian, and this thing, if its colossal size didn't give it away, hits like a freight train and then some. Its body is impervious to damage, but you can kill the Seekers. Killing them causes the Guardian to stop moving and spawn more, which exposes a floating orb that can be damaged. It'll flash red when you hit it, letting you know that you are hurting the thing. If you have trouble figuring that out, the Soul Cube will give you a hint.
Destroy the Seekers, and the Guardian becomes vulnerable.
You gotta repeat this step a couple of rounds. As the Guardian's health gets lower, the more Seekers it spawns. And this is one of the rare occasions where I use sprint a lot, because the Guardian, due to its size, can close the distance between you and it very quickly. And you don't want this thing cornering you. After you kill the Guardian, you get what you came for, the Soul Cube.
We are many. We are one. We are the Brilliant Thor. You know us as the Soul Cube. Free us from our eternal prison, and we will help you. Vanquish our enemies, and we grow stronger. Listen for our call, and then free us to smite down the evil.
I'm guessing the Praelian Thor is what the Martians called themselves, since according to what was translated when the Martians were overwhelmed by the demons, they sacrificed their souls to create the power that the cube runs on so that a lone hero could use it to repel the invasion. But as we leave Hell, the cube tells us how it works.
Destroying evil gives us life and makes us stronger. Unleash us when you hear our call. We will pass the life force to those who stay to you. We foresee a great battle. The outcome is not clear. We are the only way to destroy Hell's mightiest warrior.
I'm sure that'll be relevant later. With the cube in hand, somehow the teleporter that brought us here is working again. I'm gonna assume the cube just did that. But now we can go back to Mars. Hell is definitely a highlight of the game, and I always think it's weird that it's only a single level. I'm kind of conflicted on that because sometimes less is more, and I've played a mod of Doom 3 that extends the hell section with custom levels, but those levels, they weren't great. I'll just say that. And they dragged on for a while, so I'm a little torn on if more of it would have been a good idea. Because those extra levels might have had as many set pieces as this one did, but then again, the hell levels in Doom 1 and Doom 2 were pretty creative for the most part, so they probably could have done one or two more of them. But I do think having one hell level makes it more special. The other reason they might not have done it is pacing. Although I feel like if pacing was a problem, they could have chopped out one of the Alpha Lab levels and replaced that with a second hell level. Maybe instead of going back to the spot where we teleported in, at the end we end up finding another way out. Maybe it could have been like a makeshift UAC outpost that's here, and we have to go through that and turn on the teleporter or something. I don't know. What we got is awesome and definitely one of the highlights of the game, but for now we gotta go all the way back to Delta. But Druger tells us that Hell doesn't need the Delta Labs portal anymore and that the invasion we saw was just the first wave. That was round 1.
You are too late. Hell no longer needs that portal to enter this world. The invasion you saw was only the first wave. The Hell Gate is capable of sending millions of my children into your world. Soon, the fleet from Earth will be here, and with their ships, we will bring this Hell to Earth.
So, clock is ticking. The demons have created their own portal in the caverns beneath the base, so we gotta go down there and shut that down before it's too late. Like when we went to Hell, we've lost all of our weapons besides the Soul Cube, but we quickly recover most of them, the BFG being the exception. Getting that back is a bit of an ordeal, which we'll get into that later. Speaking of weapons, I guess I should explain how the Soul Cube works. It charges whenever something is killed around it. It needs 5 souls to activate. When it's charged, the cube will say "use us" and a sound effect will play. Equipping the cube and pressing the fire button uses it. The cube will then float to whatever enemy you point it to and attack it, killing it instantly. But that's not even the best part. It absorbs the life force of whatever it just killed and transfers that to you. So it not only kills the target, but it also heals you. The amount of health you get back depends on what enemy you hit it with, so it's best to use it on more powerful demons to get the most use out of it. This fundamentally changes the rest of the game, as the horror takes a back seat now and the game throws more enemies at you, and it'll start to feel a lot more like classic Doom. It never quite reaches the same level of arena carnage as Doom 1 and Doom 2, but it's definitely a shift in that direction. The game also becomes stingier with health pickups to compensate for the Soul Cube, and it'll throw stronger demons at us. We're in the end game now, ladies and gentlemen. However, the game, weirdly enough, throws a new enemy at us, and it's not a game changer in the slightest. No, these are not trites, these are ticks. Totally different. Except not really. They only appear in this one hallway and that's it. I don't understand why they're a thing. They're literally just trite reskins. We end up finding Swan and he's not looking too good.
Still alive? Looks like you might on your own. Sarge is gone. They've got to him. I don't know how long he's been working against us. He's no longer human. Campbell went after him. He's got to be stopped. Hell is breaking through in the caverns. If that portal isn't closed before those ships arrive, Earth will be destroyed. Earth. That's what they've always wanted. They were there once. Lost it in the dawn of time. Now it's so close. They can taste it. It's up to you now. Take my PDA, it's got what you need. Good luck.
Yeah, so Sarge is now a demon. I'm guessing it happened a little bit before he contacted us in Delta, because his demeanor was way different then. Anyway, Swan tells us we gotta stop Sarge and close the portal, but he also mentions that the demons were on Earth eons ago and somehow they lost it. I don't think that's ever been explained. Maybe that was a potential setup for a direct sequel to this game. The canceled Doom 4 was set on a demon invaded Earth, so maybe that was a plan. I don't know. Anyway, we use this PDA to unlock the door to the CPU complex. Campbell is here looking for Sarge and he still has his BFG. Maybe we can ask him to loan it to us when we catch up to him. But our path is blocked by needing a code to unlock the door, and the way we get that code is actually pretty clever. There's a room that lets us see cameras in different rooms, and in one of them, there's the code for the door. Not gonna lie, I forgot that scare was a thing and it got me a little. One thing that you'll see more of going forward is Hell is merging with the UAC facility. You'll also hear voices mocking you and stating that Sarge is coming for you and that he will kill you. You wanna bet? We have to go through a server room, and I absolutely hate this part because it's stuffed with cherubs, and the claustrophobic setting makes it hard to avoid damage. We need to get a door panel so we can actually open the door. We need to get the hell out of here. Eventually, we do catch up to Campbell.
Sarge. Find him. Gotta find him. My gun. He's got my gun.
Well, shit. Now Demon Sarge has a BFG. Yeah, we just gotta borrow that from him. I'm sure he won't mind if we ask nicely. To get to Sarge, we first have to go through a pretty big arena that I swear every mod video I see of this game showcases this level. Probably because it gives you a wide variety of enemies, and the opening bit with the enemies coming out the different doors on either side is just fun visually. We come to a giant room with a central rotating bridge thing that can get us to different areas. But to get where Sarge is, we need the proper clearance. Beneath us is a swirling hell vortex which looks cool, but I wouldn't recommend jumping into it. There's some optional areas you can go to if you're brave enough, but eventually you meet Sarge. Sarge is surprisingly difficult, especially if you don't come into the fight with the soul cube charged, because that can delete a good chunk of his health. His main method of attack is the BFG. Remember how I said it fires a green energy orb that sends out tentacles that damage whatever is nearby? Yeah, it does that to you too before it detonates. You need to shoot the projectile before it actually goes off to reduce the damage you take. Doing so will cause the projectile to detonate incorrectly, which, if Sarge is close enough to it, it can actually damage him. He'll also electrify the pillars around the arena that can do big damage to you if you're not careful. Oh, and if the BFG projectile hits you directly, it will instantly kill you. He actually killed me a few times here, but eventually I got him. Once he dies, you get the BFG back. Overall, he's a pretty fun boss, but the soul cube can trivialize this, as you can kill him in less than a minute if you hit him with it. But, of course, you have to come into the fight with it charged. After this, we enter Site 3. I don't have much to say about this level. There's a cool arena bit surrounded by Martian tablets, and there's another living scientist that has a PDA that explains a lot of the lore here. The game implies that after Hell was defeated, the surviving Martians fled Mars through a portal to somewhere. The implication is they came to Earth and that we're their descendants. It's never outright confirmed, but the game is clearly going in that direction. Outside of that, there's not much to say. Next up is the caverns. Now this is a change of scenery because it's caves, and this area is much darker than what we saw in the previous area. Our goal is to keep going down. To do that, we have to activate a giant lift, and later on we run into a snag where we need a PDA, but to get it, we have to go through the worst section in the game. I'm being hyperbolic, but it is annoying, and it's one of the things I always remember about this level. It's a platforming sequence. In a game where jumping kind of sucks. You see, we have to go down a giant shaft of retracting platforms, and we have to carefully time our jumps based on the retracting and extending platforms. Fall damage in this game is egregious, so if you get your timing wrong, you're probably gonna die. That's not the only platforming bit either. There's one where you have to manipulate a crane and then jump to it, and then jump across the gap to make it to the other side. And again, the fall damage here is egregious. And I got screwed over by physics at one point and slid right off it like it was coated in butter or something. Outside of that, the level's just kinda whatever. The aesthetic change is okay, I guess. These last two levels just suffer from final level syndrome, where they're just kind of there and you don't pay much attention to them because you just want to get to the end. The next level is shorter and even has a cooler aesthetic because we're walking through the Martian ruins, and this level is mostly just a few intense arena battles. They throw two vagaries at you at once. Fucking hell. Once you survive that, you take an elevator down to the final area. You know what, like I did for the first part of Delta, I'm just gonna let this play out with no commentary so you get to build up to the end.
So you made it this far.
Yeah, the final boss is the Cyber Demon. And this is where the game fumbles the bag for one really major reason. Remember when the Soul Cube said it was the only way to destroy Hell's mightiest warrior?
We foresee a great battle. The outcome is not clear. We are the only way to destroy Hell's mightiest warrior.
Yeah, this is what they're talking about. The Cyber Demon is immune to everything besides the Soul Cube. Demons climb out of the portal constantly so you can kill them to recharge the cube, while the Cyber Demon just walks around the arena and fires off rockets if it has line of sight on you. It can instantly kill you if it stomps on you, and its rockets can make short work of you, and usually will launch you into the lava surrounding the portal. Essentially, the final boss is a giant stage hazard that you don't actually fight. That's pretty lame. It would be one thing if it was only vulnerable for a few seconds after being hit with the cube, like the cube lowered some kind of shield it has or something. But no. The Enhanced Edition alters this fight a bit by adding more powerful demons to the list of things that can spawn from the portal, because in the vanilla version of the game it's just imps and maggots. This doesn't really make the fight any better because it doesn't address the core issue, and that is, we don't fight the Cyber Demon and we basically ignore the damn thing until the Soul Cube is charged. Which is a damn shame because he looks awesome here. But like I said, you gotta ignore him until the cube is charged, and it takes 4 hits from the cube to end this underwhelming fight.
Recon Zulu, this is Echo 1. Give me a visual status.
Echo 1, this is Recon Zulu. We've got massive damage all over the base. This place looks like hell. I've got life signs on the bioscanner. Eyes sharp. Echo 1, we've got a survivor, a Marine. Corporal, you hear me? You alright? Can you hear me? Echo 1, this is Recon Zulu. Prepare for medevac.
Copy that. Have you located Counselor Swan?
Yes, sir. He's dead.
Roger, Recon 1. What about Dr. Betruger?
He's nowhere to be found, sir.
Yeah, if you want to fight Betruger, you gotta play the Resurrection of Evil expansion, which judging by the length of this script, I'm gonna have to give that its own video along with the Lost missions from the BFG edition. So I guess that'll be the next video, but let's wrap this up.
We are the Brilliant Thor. You know us as the Soul Cube. Free us from our eternal prison, and we will help you. Vanquish our enemies.
So like I said in the intro, Doom 3 is a game that, to me, ages like fine wine, and I do think overall it's still a damn good game. It does take Doom in a different direction, but I mean, I think we're kind of used to that now, since it seems like every Doom game in the Doomslayer era is just completely different from the one before it. Doom 3 being different from Doom 1 and Doom 2 seems kind of on brand in hindsight now. That being said, Doom 3 still has a lot of classic Doom there. It's just slowed down a bit, and someone turned the horror settings up. But I do think some sections of this game do drag, like Alpha Labs could have been condensed a bit, and maybe Hell could have gotten an extra level instead. And that final boss. What a letdown. While none of the bosses were anything amazing, they were serviceable for the most part until the Cyber Demon. Overall, the game had the goal of instilling a sense of fear and paranoia in the player, and I think it succeeded. You're constantly on edge, knowing you're about to get jumped the minute you enter the next room. The enemy variety, with the exception of some weird decisions like the ticks, I think is pretty good. If I had to nitpick, some enemies function a little too similar to each other. Like the maggot is the imp, but subtract a range attack. The wraith is a maggot, but it can phase out of reality. I don't know, it just feels like either the maggot or the wraith could have had something added to it just to further differentiate them in terms of function. But in terms of levels, like I said, I felt the Alpha Labs was a little too long, and the communications dragged a bit. But that aside, it's still a fantastic game, and it still holds up despite its age. And if you haven't given it a shot yet for whatever reason, I'd say go for it, especially since we're getting closer to October. Yes, it is slower than classic Doom and has a great emphasis on horror than any other game in the series both prior and since. But it does a good job with it, and now I'm wondering what a full-blown horror game by id that was not attached to any existing series would look like. I wonder if they'd ever do that. I'd be interested in seeing what they do with it, but let me know what you guys think. Do you like Doom 3? Do you hate it? Please tell me in the comments. And if you like this video, please consider leaving a like and consider subscribing. Okay, so I guess the game plan is going to be do a video on Resurrection of Evil and the Lost Missions, and then I guess just talk about the BFG edition in general, and then switch to another game, take a break, and then come back and do the rest of the series. I should have the Resurrection of Evil and Lost Missions video out sooner, since both of those combined are shorter than Doom 3 as a whole. Hopefully I'll see you then, and consider checking out the rest of the series if you haven't yet.